Oh, okay, now start recording. So I will officially start. Okay, first of all, good morning, everyone, and thanks for spending your Saturday after holiday with the Office of Language Access, as well as the Pacific Gateway and Wi-Fi Safe Haven. Believe it or not, it is our fourth time that we have our what I call interpreter workshop. We started in June, our first one. The second one we have in September, December. This is the fourth one. Majority of us here with me from the with Tarina from Pacific Gateway and Barb Tom from Safe Haven, almost 9 months. So I'm so excited to see that you guys still continue joining us, so we didn't scare you away. So as we all know, our workshop is focusing on the interpreter. So to learn to talking to you, provide you with some knowledge and practical tips on how to become an interpreter, how to work as an interpreter. And today is really important because just having language skill as well as interpreter skill, it don't take you anywhere, because when we're talking about doing work, it's about doing business. A lot of business that have to be in play, as well as become like a what they call taxpayer citizen. That business perspective is really important. I would like to share with you some certain time that when I try to contact a lot of interpreter who work in the field, and they say, hey, at the state government, I need you to have your GE tag. I need to have your compliance issue. But I say, oh no, I don't know how to do that. I don't know how to get that. Sometimes I'm looking for the interpreter who try to want them to help with certain things, let's say Zoom class, or as well as the remote interpreting. Say, oh, I don't have computer. I don't know how to access. I don't have equipment to help me set up that type of setting that can what they call facilitate or helping with remote interpreting. Because this type of thing is about investment. It's about doing business. It's really important that you know how to do it and understand what is entail, how to create your business. And today, I'm not an expert on that. Thank you to Pacific Gateway. And we have En Young, Executive Director from Pacific Gateway, and Lucas McKinnon, the Entrepreneur Program from Pacific Gateway, will explain to you and what they call give you some education so we can learn how to create a business, as well as for looking for the long-term sustainability, as well as what they call microloan, what is that, and how we obtain to it, and what can it use before. So without further ado, we give the floor to En Young, Executive Director from the Pacific Gateway. Thank you, and take it from there.
Oh, all right. Well, thank you, AP, for hosting us. And we definitely think, with the work that we do at Pacific Gateway Center, that this is an important topic. So, I'm glad that a number of folks have come today to talk a little bit about the business aspects of it. Just a brief, I guess, introduction. Not everybody is good at business, and business, it's a specific language in and of itself. And so, if these concepts, aren't necessary.
What happened?
It got froze.
Okay.
Froze.
So he got frozen. Let's see.
Necessarily resonating. Did I freeze up?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna stop my video then. So let's see if that helps. Okay.
Oh.
I just bought this shirt for you folks, and now I won't be able to showcase it, but that's okay. I think the message is really more important. And so I don't know where I cut off, but I was just saying that, don't feel bad if you don't understand business concepts right off the bat. People go to school just for business. So it takes a while to kind of get used to the terminology. So today is really just an introduction. For us at Pacific Gateway Center, we do assist people with their business development needs. So, you can always contact us, and that's why Lucas is here. You can contact us for further information. And of course, we'll cover questions at the end. So, hi, my name is En Young. I'm invisible at this point. But that being said, we also have Lucas McKinnon with us, who is our social enterprise specialist. And Lucas is driving, and I'd like to ask him to get to the next slide, please. Yeah, so today is really about making your business work, turning your skills into a business that works for you. You know, your ability to interpret, it's a talent and it's a skill. And, you know, you can turn that into a way to help support yourself as well. So one, thank you for working with us if you do. And if not, you know, thank you for doing these services in the community because they are sorely needed. And today we're going to talk about just a little you know, how to make sure that you can leverage your talent in a way that works for you. Next slide, Lucas, please. I'm not going to go too much into the Pacific Gateway Center. There's our mission statement and some of the programs we run. So for those of you, you may know us in this sense, you know, for the Hawaii Language Bank, but we do have a few other programs. I'm sure most of you are pretty familiar with it, so I'm just going to whip through it. We have our culinary business incubator that's in Kalihi. It's 11 commercial kitchens where we help support food businesses who are just getting started with commercial infrastructure. So, for example, you know, if you have a food business, you know, to prep food for the public, you need a commercial kitchen. And so, you know, rather than putting up all that money up front, you know, you can try it out at Pacific Gateway Center to incubate your business while you get up and running. And that's, you know, the same thing we're trying to do for our interpreters as well, as, you know, incubate your businesses so that, you know, you can kind of stand on your own 2 feet. We also have the Naku Punamakamaia Senior Center that's right across from SALT in Kaka'ako, the old pump station. And there we do senior offerings and also looking to expand, you know, into doing some services in Kaka'ako as well. So we have some classes as well as our Hawaii Language Bank is housed there. 83 North King Street, beautiful building in Chinatown. We've done various programs over the years. With COVID, we've kind of slowed down. But that being said, that's the building where the Pig and the Lady is, you know, our restaurant. We also help to incubate. And then finally, that Tongan gentleman pulling the taro, that's our Kunia Farms. It's a 176-acre farm where we similarly do incubation services for farmers. Now, you may be bored at this point, but, you know, I will say that, you know, in each of these programs, you know, interpretation and translation is really key because, you know, our primary service demographic is refugees, immigrants, limited English proficiency. So in each of these services, we use translation and interpretation pretty extensively, you know, to make sure that, you know, there's equal access to our services for the people we serve. And then next slide, please, Lucas. And who are these wonderful people? I'm going to put them on the spot. Jordan and Cloudy are our fearless leaders down at Hawaii Language Bank. So yeah, I'm not here to plug, but I am here to say that, you know, later on we'll be talking about marketing. And as you can see, you know, Cloudy's headshot is a little out of date. So, you know, when you do present yourself as a business, that might be something you want to think about. But yes, Hawaii Language Bank, we are one of the interpretation and translation services in town. So, you know, we also see it as being in our best interest to help folks like you really get their business up and running because, you know, we need that talent in our pipeline as well. Next slide, Lucas. Okay, so why is interpretation important? I touched on it just a little bit, but really it's first and foremost, it's about equal access to our systems. So, you know, there's a number of systems in America that, you know, we depend heavily on and people should have equitable access to. We talk a lot about the justice system, right? Legal services. You know, if you don't understand what's going on in court, and even people who speak English very well, many times don't understand what's going on in court. You know, it really does create a barrier to getting justice, really. Moving on to our medical systems as well. You know, in order to get good medical care. We really have to, yourself and the doctor, the client and the doctor, they really need to understand each other, be honest with each other, and have a good mutual understanding of what's going on. So it's important in that sense, as well as social service, right? So that's what we were talking about. Our programs, when we seek to serve immigrants, refugees, folks who are limited English proficient, we need to make sure we can meet them where they're at, and take them where they need to be. And for that, we need to understand, them not only from a linguistic standpoint, but from a cultural standpoint. What are they looking to do? What are they looking to achieve in America? And then, we try and help them from there. We really think that translation piece, it just promotes true understanding. We are all people. We have a lot of the same experiences, and that's really in the end what brings us together. We believe is that mutual understanding. But I will also say that it's a business opportunity. So I'm sure you've heard some of these figures before, but I'd like you to think about them in a slightly different way. So for example, 1 out of 9 folks in Hawaii is limited English proficient. So if you're a business and you don't know how to reach people who may be more proficient in another language than English, you're missing out on 1 out of 9 people in order to sell your product, in order to sell your service, or whatever you're doing as a business. So from a business standpoint, it is important to be able to reach different populations in order to help your business grow. Secondly, from the business standpoint, bilingual, not only bilingual, but bicultural advertising will likely be much more effective. Now, I'm Hawaiian, and I do see a lot of Hawaiian language advertising, which is just grammatically incorrect, or just isn't the right way, to phrase things. Maybe it looks like a straight translation from English to Hawaiian, but if the concept's not there, it actually, to me, it causes a little bit of mistrust. Now, I don't speak any other language, but looking at someone who kind of doesn't know how to use my language, it really turns me off from a business standpoint. So I'm imagining it's probably the same for at least a portion of people who are limited English proficient and looking for content in their own language. And overall, in the business terms, what that's called is increasing the addressable market. So how many people can I address with my business? So, having that translation piece, we feel is very important. Again, I know you know this intrinsically, but also just think about it in a business sense as well. And then next slide, Lucas, please. So what are the opportunities for you? So here we have, some of the opportunities out there are definitely as an employee or as an independent contractor. So I think we know this, but I'll just cover it real quickly. Interpretation services. Often the way you're going to engage with interpretation services, it's usually on call. A lot of times it's in person or remote. Interpretation, it can be complicated or it can be taxing. And for those of you who have attended the other trainings, it may require extensive preparation, to be ready for the interpretation event. On the translation services side, it's a little bit more flexible. It's probably still on call. Translation services are usually remote. You kind of work where you are. They usually have a fixed deadline, though, and I'm sure everybody here is familiar with a standard interpretation deadline versus an expedited. And it really allows you for more research, time for more research. So you don't necessarily have to be as versed in the subject right up front. Okay, Lucas, next slide, please. Okay, so if you're working as an employee, and many of us have other jobs or have had other jobs before, the opportunities for a translator or an interpreter as an employee are much more rare than they are for an independent contractor. Usually you're going to work in a large corporation who deals with a specific population, a government agency who again may deal with a very specific population, or you may be working for a nonprofit that may be based in one country, but providing services, maybe a multinational corporation or a nonprofit that provides services in different venues. A lot of the times, even then, in the government sphere or even in the corporate sphere, they'll hire you as something else. Let's say you're a marketing person, and having that second language skill is really just a bonus for the employer. You're not really hired to be a translator. So it's a little harder to get a job as an employee for translation or interpretation services. That being said, some of the benefits or drawbacks, depending on how you look at it, as an employee, you're going to have a fixed income, right? You're going to make a certain amount of money per month. You'll have a fixed schedule. When you start, when you end. You don't necessarily have to take work home with you. Maybe you do. If you're full-time, you'll likely have benefits. So things we talk about like health insurance, life insurance, maybe vacation, sick time, those kinds of things. Those are usually afforded to employees. And then to start to get into the business perspective, you'll have taxes deducted from your paycheck, right? You agree to work for a certain amount, you get your paycheck and you say, hey, where did all that money I was promised go? Well, a lot of that is taxes or the cost of your benefits as well. As an employee, you'll likely have a supervisor, so someone who will be directing your work. And then Lucas, next slide, please. And you may be working in a team environment, or you could be working independently as well. Now, as an independent contractor, again, these are pros and cons, and they will depend on really what you're looking for as an individual. So work as an independent contractor, at least in translation and interpretation, is much more commonplace than being a regular full-time employee. That being said, work as an independent contractor, you don't always know how much you're going to make. You may be very busy, maybe very slow, kind of depending on what's going on. So, your income will be variable. But, you'll also have a flexible schedule. If you do have other things going on in your life, maybe you have another job, the flexible schedule can be a benefit in that, you can kind of work when it's convenient for you. And really that segues into the next thing is really, you get to choose what jobs you do. In a employee setting, you may get a difficult job that might be outside of your expertise, might require a lot of research. If you are able as an independent contractor to pick and choose your jobs, you may just want to specialize on one specific thing. Let's say you're an educator during the day. You could just focus on, for example, DOE translations, in your translation business, and use your skills that way. As an independent contractor, it's not common to get the same kind of benefits that employees get. So again, we're talking about that health insurance, that paid time off, sick leave, those kinds of things. Probably not going to be getting those benefits as an independent contractor. And then, like we're talking about as far as taxes, your taxes will be due. So you'll have to keep track of how much tax you need to be paying. And that goes for not only your employment taxes, but your GE tax, your federal taxes, all those kinds of things. And that can be onerous in and of itself. Depending on what kind of jobs you select as an independent contractor, there may be licensing or credentialing that you might need to go through in order to qualify to get certain jobs. So that can be a consideration as well as an independent contractor. Lucas, next slide, please. So we're just starting really at the basics today. And again, you can contact us if you'd like more specific information or help. And so just some of the basics of being an independent contractor. What you're doing as an independent contractor is you're starting your own business. And there are a couple of things that you really need to look at. Some of them are required. For example, those are registration with the Business Registration Division of Department of Commerce and Consumer Affairs. It is actually, it's a fairly simple and straightforward process if you have your documents together. I've done consulting in my past, and so business registration took me about 15 minutes to do online, and then it took another 7 days or so for my application to get approved. That being said, it is a straightforward process, but as we know, especially from this work, you have to make sure you have your documents organized. Again, another registration piece is Department of Taxation. That's Hawaii Tax Online. We'll go over that in a little while as well. And then something you definitely want to think about as an independent contractor is insurance. And we'll go over a couple types of insurance and why it's important as well. In fact, it's a great segue. Lucas, can I get that next slide, please? Okay, so this is my favorite definition of insurance. A thing providing protection against a possible eventuality. Nobody likes insurance until they need it. But that being said, what insurance is, at least how I feel about insurance, is it's really peace of mind for you in your business. It can help you decrease your worry and help you recover faster, because things in life happen. Accidents, natural disasters. COVID obviously is a great example. And business interruption insurance is one way you can kind of mitigate those ups and downs. So in some instances, insurance will be required depending on the contract. So again, just something to look at, and we'll talk about that in the next slide. Go ahead, Lucas. So what are the different types of insurance? Again, just start by saying we don't have to absorb all this today. This is really just to get your mind thinking about how you want to structure your business. I'll start by saying the best kind of insurance, or the right kind of insurance, is really the insurance that's right for your business. So, think about how you're structuring your business, what your daily activities are, and that will tell you what kind of insurance you need. Now, on the personal side, we all think about health insurance, right? These days, it's actually mandatory. So, as an independent contractor, you'll be setting aside a certain amount of money for your health insurance costs. If you work from home, you may not need automobile insurance. If you do go out into the world and perform services on site, you may want to consider automobile insurance. If you're concerned about if your job's hazardous, maybe, or if you're concerned about your family, life insurance might be for you. I'll jump in here at this point and say, I'm not here to sell insurance. What I am here to do is just get you thinking about how your business is structured, and again, your daily activities, and that really will dictate, well, that and your risk tolerance will dictate what insurance is right for you. And as far as risk tolerance goes, that's really, it's a personal preference. If you think a certain event has a really low probability of occurring, then you may not want the insurance. Versus, if you're putting yourself in harm's way a lot, or again, you're using a car a lot, then that kind of insurance would probably be appropriate. So let's go into some of these other insurances, and some of you may have some of these already, or maybe not. And the first type of business insurance that is very common is called general liability insurance. And if you talk to an insurance professional, they'll call it GL. So in a GL policy, it's basically whatever occurs during you conducting business would be covered. If somebody gets hurt while you're doing business, if you get hurt, if something happens to, let's say you have equipment for your business, that kind of thing, the general liability policy is generally the policy that's going to cover that. Again, I'm not here to give legal advice or insurance advice, and the policies differ from dealer to dealer. So make sure you know what the exclusions are. So something that's not covered by insurance is called an exclusion. So, that may be something, well, it's definitely something you want to take a look at when you're shopping for insurance policies is, what is covered and what isn't. The second type of insurance that especially we at Pacific Gateway Center would like for everyone who's doing this kind of work to really take a good look at is called professional liability insurance. And this is often known as E&O, and E&O stands for errors and omissions. So that's important. If you're working as a consultant, if you're working as a professional, and you make an error in the information that you transmit, and the business that you're working for suffers a loss because of that error that you made, you can be liable for whatever loss the business incurs because they were depending on your information. So, I mean, if you think about it, and God forbid this ever happens, but let's say you're doing a medical translation, the person says kidney, and you tell the doctor liver. That could be a whole. It could be a very serious occurrence, and errors and omissions insurance would protect you in this kind of situation. Again, we hope that never happens, but just definitely something to think about. Now that's an error. That would be something that would be a translation error. But there are also what are called omissions. And for omissions, it's, we know, especially interpretation, some of you folks are going at lightning speed, especially with the simultaneous. And certain things, you folks are a conduit. You're taking one language and you're making decisions about how to phrase and how to package that in a format where the other person is going to understand. Now, a concept may slip out here and there, or you may think, okay, well, maybe that little part wasn't important, right? And so, it doesn't make it into that that translated piece or interpreted piece. That would be an omission. And this insurance would cover you in that kind of situation as well. So just something to think about. It's called professional liability insurance, also known as E&O. There are other types of insurances as well. Business income insurance. So let's say you have a facility and facilities hit by a hurricane. Let's just say, hopefully it never happens. The property itself would be covered by your general liability insurance because it's business property. But because you don't have that facility, let's say you can't make money. A policy for business income would also cover your loss of income during the time where that facility is not able to be used. And it's the same with equipment. So I think I forget what it was, like maybe 2014 or so, Lloyd's of London, a big insurance company, started covering pandemic insurance. So as you guys may have seen in the news, COVID was a huge interruption, and people tried to claim business interruption insurance, but because there was a specific pandemic exclusion, a lot of people did not get paid out for their policies. So some of it is really guesswork. I mean, who could have guessed that COVID would have done what it did to the economy? But that being said, a lot of times there is an insurance policy that will cover some of these events, even some we've never even thought about before, at least for our businesses. And then finally, there's a policy called umbrella insurance. And what umbrella insurance is, it's just additional insurance. So it's called umbrella insurance because, and I have the umbrella there, is because the other insurances usually sit underneath it, right? So let's say something happens, with your worst case scenario, the hurricane hits, you lost your income, and you made an error in translation that costs you some money, right? So let's say each of these policies are exhausted. Umbrella insurance sits on top of that and covers the gaps where your current insurance policy doesn't cover. So that's kind of above and beyond, and that will probably come into play if you're running a larger business. But again, just wanted to introduce you folks to the concepts today. Okay, next slide, please. Sorry, this is a little busy. So where do you go for insurance? So you have a couple of options. Actually, there are a ton of options these days. You can look at insurance online as long as you know what kind of insurance you want and you feel comfortable with what the policies dictate and what the policies exclude. Now, some of these can be very, very complex. Insurance policies can run in the hundreds of pages, depending on what exactly you're looking for. So if you don't necessarily feel confident with shopping online for your own insurance, some of the other options are you can go to a dealer, or you can go to what's called an insurance broker. So in a dealer, it is what it sounds like. It's just like buying a car. You go and that dealer is going to have a certain amount of inventory. Let's say they only sell red cars. They may only sell one type of insurance, and so that's what we're talking about. They sell individual policies. A dealer may be cheaper than a broker, but they might not have everything you want. Dealers usually deal in specialized services. So let's say a dealer might just deal with general liability insurance, but if you want a renter's policy on top of that, they might not be able to do that. And you might have to go to multiple dealers to get what kind of insurance you're looking for. With the broker deals with different insurance companies. So they may have access to a wider variety of insurances than a specific dealer. And, a lot of these brokers, the bigger brokers especially, they'll have access to mainland companies, they'll have access to international companies. So a lot of times, they can pull quotes from a number of different insurance providers and really give you a good look at what the market rate is for some of these policies. They're also able to bundle the policies. So let's say you want professional liability, you want automobile, you also want mortgage insurance for your house, or a renter's policy, if you're renting, and any other number of kind of random insurances. The broker will likely be able to bundle them, across your personal and business needs. Now, of course, this service comes with a fee, and so there'll be a brokerage fee, per your individual insurance policies. Which is why I was saying, for a dealer, it may be slightly cheaper because they're gonna charge their regular rate, but they're not gonna charge you that brokerage fee. So, which one should I go with, the dealer or the broker? It's really up to you. If you are running your business and it's small, you're only doing really one type, let's just say translation, you're doing it from home, you're not using a car, you're specializing in just one type of translation, which you have expertise in, you may need a lot less insurance, or you may want a lot less insurance. And so in that scenario, you might want to go to a dealer. You know exactly what you want. You don't need a lot of different policies, as we were talking about. That might be better for you. Let's say you're a business, you're growing your business, you're starting to branch out into different languages, you're on the road, you're consulting for companies on culture or language specific marketing or those kinds of things. You may want to go with a broker because you're touching a number of different areas, and you may want insurances that will cover each of those activities that you're doing. So again, we're not here to give advice. This is really just thinking about how your business is structured, where you want to head with it, and making decisions from there. Okay, next slide, Lucas. So growing your business. I see Claudie's there. I'm not sure if she saw her headshot, but if you want to grow your business, you have to put yourself out there. And part of that is, for example, marketing. Do you have well, again, so it really depends on what kind of business you want to how you want to grow your business, right? So if you're just doing interpretation as translation on the side, you have a steady job and you just want to, make a little extra money, you're working for someone else and you're getting enough work, then you might be fine. If you want to grow your business, if you want to branch out, if you want to do some consulting for companies, in your areas of expertise, you probably want to be a little bit more professional. And so from that standpoint, for example, getting a website together, maybe with a payment portal as well, something to think about. Business cards, obviously that's very professional as well. That could be, so marketing is really letting more people know about what you're doing. So that's one way to grow your business. The second way is training and credentials. So, I'm just throwing some stuff out there. For example, you could take some of the exams put out by American Translators Association, or you could get a medical credential. These things, what credentials do is they open up more opportunities for you. They may not let more people or businesses know what you're doing, but you'll be able to be qualified for more and more diverse types of jobs. So that's another way you can grow your business. And then, especially because of where we are, Hawaii, word of mouth is always great. It's always great marketing. A lot of it will come from your professionalism as well, how you carry yourself in the jobs you do now. And that will speak to your reputation. Do you show up on time? Do you do your translation well? Are you professional? A lot of us here on this call have gone through the other trainings, as far as ethics and that kind of thing. People are watching, when we conduct ourselves in public. And when you're a good interpreter or translator, depending on what you're doing, the word will get out there. So just something else to keep in mind. So those are some of the ways you can grow your business. On the compliance side, I have a little note here about HIPAA, for example. So let's say you want to, you have your medical credential and everything like that. But on the translation side, you are exchanging files through email. For that particular situation, to be HIPAA compliant, you want to have a HIPAA compliant email. And what that is it's an extra layer of encryption to make sure that those medical records are not not able to be accessed by any party who is not authorized. So just things like that. In certain contracts, you may also have a non-disclosure agreement. Let's say you're working for the government or for the military and there's sensitive information. You may be required to sign a non-disclosure agreement or get certain clearances from the government in order to work on certain types of documentation. So, there are also some compliance pieces that could affect what kinds of jobs you can take and what kinds of jobs are open to you. And then a last note on professionalism is really, in addition to your reputation, being able to keep good records. Everyone who is in the business and also, when it comes time to file taxes, is going to be looking at your record keeping. And if you're only doing a few jobs a year, or let's say a couple a month, then the shoebox with the receipts in it may be okay. But as you start to grow your business, you really want to get organized with your filing and your record keeping systems. It'll be better for you in the long run as far as taxes or the IRS if you ever get audited. But I think more importantly too, it helps your ability to communicate with the different folks that you're working for as a contractor, to really be on the same page with, look, this is how much I did, this is how much we agreed upon, and here was the cancellations, here was the other things that may have come up, to really show that you know your stuff and you're keeping track of what's going on. It speaks a lot to your professionalism. Okay, next slide, please, Lucas. So AP was talking a little bit about tools. So at a very basic level, you really want to start with, actually, I would say let's start with the smartphone. That really has, it's become the tool of business. And I think, we all know that at this point, there's so much different communication that goes through your cell phone. And, you can tell because you just see people glued to it all day, walking around down the street. That being said, a working email, you need to be able to be contacted, especially with this kind of work where it's on call, time sensitive, deadline driven. That working email and checking that email are very important. If you are doing translations, what is the machine that you'll be doing the translation on? So you'll probably want a computer or a tablet, preferably something up to date. If you're running software that's helping you with grammar check or that kind of thing, you may want a more powerful machine, depending on the requirements of the individual software. That being said, on the bottom, we talk a little bit about software and the formatting tools. The work is not quite the same as it was a few years ago, where you get a document that's all words, just a giant block of text, and you translate it into something else. For those of you, we'll just speak from PGC's example. We are working with Department of Health to put out some COVID information translations, and those are actually done in a program called Canva. And so we do, our translators do them directly onto the different slides or the different posters. And so, with that computer and, recognizing a little bit of the, and being able to utilize the newer formatting tools really will help your business, because, if you can respond to the formats that the folks requesting the job are using, then it'll leave you in a good position to get more of those jobs if that's your goal. Next slide, please. Okay, we talked a little bit about filing taxes. So this is your home base for Hawaii. It's called Hawaii Tax Online. This is the front page. It actually is. It's pretty easy to use. We're not going to get into the individual specifics because every business is going to be different in the way you want to structure what you're doing in order to accurately pay the right amount of tax. And that's what you want to do. You don't want to overpay. You don't want to underpay. You really want to get it as close as possible so that the money you make is in your pocket. So you can see here on the bottom the registration piece. It's right there on the bottom right. The payment piece, if you're paying your taxes, it's right there on the bottom left. I'd encourage everyone to, as you can see on the top right-hand corner, I'd encourage everyone to create a login and just explore the site a little bit. It's pretty easy to use. Interpretation and translation services are not as complex as some other businesses. So navigating through this site is actually, it's pretty straightforward. Lucas, next slide, please. And then here's everybody's favorite federal department, the IRS. And this is just irs.gov. Much like the Hawaii site, almost everything that you're going to do in this profession is right there on the front page. So, you can apply for your employer ID number if you start hiring folks, make a payment, which is likely what you'll be doing as a contractor. Yeah, tax filing. I mean, it's all right there on the front page. I would also encourage people to create an account at irs.gov. I will also say that the IRS folks, they are very helpful. If you do want to ask questions, it's right there on the bottom left, and they are usually pretty responsive. And if you do have a tax question and it's tax crunch time, and you do file that question before your taxes are due, a lot of the times, they will understand that and give you a short a waiver or extension to your taxes if you're working on a more complex problem. So, the IRS, they're there to get people to pay their taxes. So, they do make it as easy as they can. That being said, it's still a government agency, so take that with a grain of salt. I'll also say, we talked about some of the costs of growing your business, right? So insurance, we talked about marketing, buying business cards, or investing in a website. We talked about education, investing in yourself as far as credentials and those kinds of things. Paying for an email which is HIPAA compliant, for example. All of these are business expenses, and so each of these, when you file taxes, can be written off from your income in order to lower your overall tax liability. Now, that's going to be different from business to business. For some of us, let's say we use our car half-time personal and half-time business. It's going to be a different calculation than somebody who has a car just for. So that being said, that was a little bit about the basics. We're also here today to talk to you about, how to get your business to grow from a capitalization standpoint. How do I get the money I need to get started or to grow my business? And with that, I'll turn it over to Lucas.
Great, thank you, En. Here we go. So as En just mentioned, we didn't want to leave everyone high and dry, so I'll also keep this brief and hopefully not so pitchy, but we wanted to offer this as an opportunity to anyone who's interested. This is a way to capitalize your business through a microloan program called Kiva. Pacific Gateway Center has partnered with Kiva over the last few months, and this is an opportunity for those that are interested in a low barrier to entry microloan to help support their business. PGC is partnering with Kiva because it operates on a model based off social capital and based on the ideas of gaining entry for making accessibility for those that can't enter the traditional banking system. So I'll just do a little brief overview. This microloan, we offer sizes between $500 and $15,000. There's no interest and no fees for any size within that range. The repayment period is 6 to 36 months. And the platform is through Kiva's website, and then payments are dispersed through PayPal. I'll just go back and say one little note is that it operates according to a crowdfunding platform. So if you're familiar with things like GoFundMe, you might be familiar with the way that Kiva works. It's based in the idea of social capital. So using pre-existing networks to help fund your business or your ideas. A little brief note about eligible uses for the loan. You can buy equipment, hire employees, upgrade your space, or use it for marketing, e-commerce, that sort of thing. You can also purchase smartphones or technology to help support your translation or interpretation businesses. For eligibility, here's a little brief overview. Again, all of this is on our website, so I don't need to get into too much detail, but primary thing to note here is that just noting the benefit of working with Pacific Gateway Center on this loan specifically is that if you're working with the Social Enterprise Program, which is a branch of Pacific Gateway Center, for at least 3 months, you'll be eligible for an endorsement, an official endorsement through Pacific Gateway Center. And the benefit of that is that every dollar that you raise on the public fundraising period through Kiva will be matched up to $5,000. I think in the next slides, I'll get a little further into those details of how that actually operates. So this application process is really basic. Again, it's supposed to lower the barrier to entry for loans or those that are seeking loans in a way that you can kind of go around traditional banking systems. Pacific Gateway Center is really interested in making it available based on the idea of generating social capital based on character. It's more character-based lending. So it's based on the relationship that Pacific Gateway Center has with you, and that also that Kiva has with you as a business owner. But it's just basic financial information. There's no credit check or anything like that. You need a business plan, which Pacific Gateway Center, the Social Enterprise Program, usually myself can help you work to build one of those out. You also determine what loan amount you're paying for. For some people, it makes sense to go for $1,000. Others, it might make sense to go for the full $15,000. And then it's just this opportunity to tell your story about your business, your interpretation or translation business, and how you are unique, and kind of just tell that unique story of you and your business. And then back again to the points that Anne really was honing in on there is linking this to your social media accounts, because the profile that you create through Kiva will go online. It will be public facing. And so it's this opportunity during a public fundraising period for people to invest in your story, invest in your idea, and then also creates that opportunity for you to have a loan at 0% interest and no fees. Here's a little breakdown of how the loan functions on a timeline. There's a pre-check through Kiva itself. You can then go through PGC for an official endorsement. Kiva itself will do an underwriting and review process. All of that, so those first 3 will take a few weeks. And then you can enter into the private fundraising period. And that's about 1 to 2 weeks, depending on the size of the loan you're going for, to fundraise within your own personal network, usually a small portion of the total loan that you're seeking. After you reach that barrier, which is again typically $500 to $1,000, depending on the loan size, you'll enter into a public lending period, which lasts 30 days. This is your public facing fundraising period where people are able to go online, go to Kiva, see your story and invest in you. And then after that 30 days, the public fundraising period ends. And if you reach your goal, the loan is immediately dispersed to you. So we're partnering with Lish to match, dollar for dollar up to $5,000. So for example, if you're going for the $10,000 micro loan, we'll help you reach that in partnership as an endorsee of Pacific Gateway Center in half the time, essentially. There's also regional partners and networks that we work with, including the Kahala Center and Slow Money. So if we can't support you or work with you or endorse you for geographic or other reasons, we'll be sure to connect you with those that can help you. Let's see. Yeah, just wanted to keep that brief. There's plenty more information on pacificgatewaycenter.com/loans. You can also reach out to me, Lucas at pacificgatewaycenter.com, or send an email again to loans@pacificgatewaycenter. But just making that as an opportunity available to everyone here. And yeah, that's about it. Open it up for questions.
Okay, thank you so much, Lucas and Anne, for your presentation. I can hear of everyone, we are doing our job as an interpreter and translator. Sometimes we just do it out of our love because we want to serve our community. But in reality, you have to looking at from business perspective, because we have to make our own living. And we know as our group here, we have been talking in the state too many times that how we can make our professional to be livable, to make enough income and to be able to support our family. So just want to say there is not enough. That's why important to learn what is the business, what do we have to invest ourselves into, what we have to look into create our own business. I can tell you from a government perspective, for example, if you want to hire some interpreter, if the project is more than 2,500, the law requires us as the state government to verify whether or not you comply with Hawaii Compliant Express or SCE. And in order to be compliant, you have to have all business clear out from IRS, state tax, as well have compliant with DCCA. That's the reality of doing business. Many people lose opportunity in becoming working in professional level because they don't know about business aspect. Some people, and we also have to looking at our professional as an investment. Some people talking, oh, I don't have money to invest in equipment. I don't have money to build up our professional development, like I say, go get certification. So that's why we partner up with the Pacific Gateway to see what is there another opportunity to help us as a community that to try to go to the the target that we want to serve our community in a professional way and more sustainable and for the long term. So this is that's why I think it is very important to talk about this aspect. But before we go in there, I'm gonna give the floor to any question to participant, any question that you would like to ask in and and Lucas.
Yeah.
Oops, Victor, sorry, go ahead. Oops. Victor, you are on mute. Let's see.
Yeah, my question was about is there any help that you can help us get through the SBA? And I'll mute myself because I have a little boy here.
Okay, Lucas and Anne, do you know anything about SBA that Victor mentioning about? As a government, I don't know anything about SBA, and as an individual, I also know nothing about SBA. I will give it back to Anne and Lucas that might be able to explain about what is SBA or answer Victor question. Thank you.
Oh, this is how at Pacific Gateway Center. I'm sorry. I've been working with SBA and helping a couple of clients, small businesses. So Victor, contact us if you have any specific question, and I would be more than happy to assist you. I'm gonna put my email address in the on the chat box too.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Howe. Any question from the group?
Yeah, hi. I had a question about, and you mentioned that you had to create a HIPAA compliant email. So I was just wondering if it was a specific type of process that you have to go through.
Yeah, so there are services that will work on top of your existing email, and they just add another encryption layer. And then there are also, for example, Gmail, you can purchase their package, which has a HIPAA compliant email in it. So it really just depends on who you're using. It's becoming more and more common, so it shouldn't be too difficult of a process these days. Just to make sure, and you'll see if you interact with, I don't know, Kaiser or some of the other folks, you'll see on the very bottom it says HIPAA compliant email or those kinds of things. So it's pretty straightforward.
Okay, thank you.
There is also a question in the chat. I think it might be applied for certain population here as well, because in the past we have people who join us from, I believe, Denver, Washington, and Oregon. So is that microloan is available just for the resident? It's also available for anyone who live, say, non-state resident as well? And Lucas, could you clarify on that?
Yeah, so we are limited to our service area, and right now we're just serving the state of Hawaii. But that being said, Kiva it's a global platform. So they do fundraises for specific small businesses all around the world. Our program, again, is kind of specific to Hawaii, but Kiva's out there. For the difference, I guess, for us is, as Lucas was saying, that we can, as Pacific Gateway Center, we can endorse you in the loan, which gives you kind of a different underwriting, and we also have matching funding. So if you are on the mainland or in Sweden or in Antarctica, you can still get a Kiva loan. It's just you won't get those additional benefits that Pacific Gateway provides.
Okay, so the next question is might not pertaining to this session, but we have Branca from Kauai. They have a question about certification on languages that not common, like a Marshallese, Ponapan. Where can bilingual individual get more information? Branca, Pacific Gateway, as well as Safe Haven and OLA, and in partnership with KCC and University of Hawaii, we're looking to explore that option. So we still in the process of identifying and where we can improve or developing that certification program, and also, but I will keep in touch as well as give you more information when not the story, but when the process have been more developed. But yeah, we identify and we recognize that has been a problem as well, had a challenge for the state of Hawaii so far. So we will try to work in partnership with different organizations and entities to ensure that we have the pathway for people who work in what they call the less diffusion languages, have more resource and be able to move on with the certification program. And we have one question from, I believe, sorry. Okay, Sai Maui, do you have any question?
Sorry, I was trying to type my question, but I'm gonna ask
Sure.
For independent contractors, so do they need what type of a specific, or is there specific degrees that they need to have or credentials that they need to have for
I think it
become?
depends on what type of job and who are you working with. For example, if you don't mind here, say if you're working for Pacific Gateway, who is also provide services through their language bank, so they might have their different their own criteria when accepting the provider. If you're looking for for example, judiciary, who is also looking for court interpreter, in that type of situation, they have certain qualification as well as the program that you have to attend to. So it depends on the entity that you are kind of working with them. So each agency have their own standard and own requirement. I hope that answers your question.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else that we can answer? Anything from the group that would like to ask our presenter today? I have Karina. Can you unmute?
Sorry, yeah. Hi, and you happen to mention that for DCCA business registration, specific documents are needed. Can you share with us what those documents are so that interpreters who do need to register will know how to prepare?
Sure. I appreciate getting picked on by my own employees. DCCA registration is fairly straightforward. You know, they want to know where you're doing business, who you are, and where you're doing business. So I don't want to get too complicated here, but you know, I mean, it really is, you know, having a valid ID, and then the second piece is really your place of business, right? So there are a couple ways to do that. You can do that through you can establish your home as a business, or you can you can use what's called a registered agent. And so a registered agent is someone else you pay to be kind of your home base for business. They'll accept all your mail. It'll be like a corporate office that basically, you know, you rent. And I think I pay like $45 a year or something like that for our registered agent. So it just really, it depends on your situation, but really it's the basics of it are an ID and a way to prove who you are, and you know, a location where your business is going to reside.
Okay. Thank you, Anne.
I have a question, and let's continue to pick up our executive director of PGC, Bob End, and so continue on this same line of thoughts here. All independent have.
Oops.
Sorry, can you hear that, or do I have a lot of background?
I can hear you now. Yeah.
Can you hear?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So are all independent contractor required to have both the exercise license tax and the DCCA business registration, or does the exercise license tax be sufficient enough to conduct an independent contractor business?
Who is an independent contractor license sufficient for that? I'm not sure I can answer in all cases. I would say generally, you know, you can pay, you know, as an independent contractor, you can either establish your own tax ID, or you can use your social security number. And so if you're using your social security number, that will, when you file your taxes, it'll be run through your same social security number that you use for your, let's say if you're a W-2 employee, if you're an employee of someone else. If you're using a tax ID number, then I would say, well, okay, if you have a tax ID number, then you're compliant with the state. So that part should be fine. If you're using your social security number, I would just say, just make sure to keep everything separate. Is it sufficient? I think it kind of depends on some of your business details. If you have multiple, yeah, I don't want to necessarily give too much business advice here because it's gonna kind of depend from case to case. I can say with certainty that if you are registered with DCCA, then you'll be compliant. If you're using your social security number, there may be some instances which could be construed, which may be confusing if you also have W-2 income. And that's probably more than what you wanted to hear, but.
I have another question. So does PGC requires that their independent contractor or linguist have both the exercise license and the DCCA registration and also insurance?
It's, I mean, as far as the contracts are concerned, it's not required because, we require that I mean, anyone that anyone works with as an independent contractor, will have to adhere to the laws of the state of Hawaii. So if they're compliant with, Department of Tax and DCCA, then they're fine with us. We don't have to overlay that on our contracts and make that a requirement because it's the law. You already have to be compliant in that sense.
Hey, and may I add, sorry, I'm an insurance broker and I do insure businesses here in the state of Hawaii. And so I just want to add that it's going to depend on who your contract is with, who hired you. And depending on whether there's a contract between you and the party that hired you. So if they require you to have your GE license, a W-9, an insurance policy, those you have to look at the insurance requirement within the contract if there is one. So a lot of times when you're an independent contractor, it's the company that hired you that's going to give you their requirements and say, we want you to, show us proof that you're insured. We want you to give us a W-9 so that we can pay you, because a W-9 is from a tax standpoint. But the insurance is really mostly because of from an insurance standpoint. If you're an independent, the company that hired you is going to make sure that when they're audited by their workers' comp insurance carrier or their general liability carrier, that the independent contractor isn't part of the payroll of their employees, right? So that is going to be dependent on who you're doing business with.
Yeah, I definitely, thank you for that, Della. I definitely didn't want to get too complicated. I think AP mentioned earlier, for example, if you're working with the judiciary or anyone in the state, they have certain insurance requirements. In fact, they're going to dictate the level of insurance you have to have as well. AP knows this, on the automobile, you may have to have $1 million and you got to have $1 million GL just to kind of get in the door. And so that's where agencies like ourselves kind of act as intermediaries and say, okay, we're the contractor, we have the contract, but then we hire independent contractors to fulfill the work. So we act as that umbrella organization to meet those insurance coverages in that standpoint. But, depending on how the contract is structured, as Della was saying, we may have to pass down some of those insurance requirements to the independent contractors.
Great. Thank you so very much for both of you for
And I could probably give like an estimate of what insurance would cost, because that's something that you want to budget as part of your business expenses. And so for a general liability policy that Ann mentioned earlier, general liability is every business that does business, whether you're a government entity, you're a private entity, every business carries commercial general liability insurance. For interpreters, there is a product through a company called RLI Insurance, and they have a special property policy for in-home, people that are doing business out of their homes, and certain businesses qualify, not everybody. So if your office is at home and you're an interpreter, you may qualify for the RLI product, and it includes property insurance, which you can then add your business interruption insurance within, because you don't buy business interruption insurance unless you have, as Ann mentioned, a building, a property to insure it, right? So the cost for the in-home business product through RLI insurance is under $500. So if you go to a normal company like First Insurance or Dietrich, they'll give you a general liability insurance. However, their minimum premium is usually starting at $500. So this particular product through RLI is specific to the personal. It's part of a personal insurance type of policy, and so it's probably not even $500. It's maybe $400 maximum. So if you know of an insurance agent, talk to them about that particular product.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
Thank you, Della. Yeah, that's pretty good. So everyone know the resource. So, and I'm glad that one of our peer who participating have specific knowledge. Yeah. So one is the issues come up, feel free to reaching out, because it's about networking. It's about helping each other. So we not endorse any particular insurance company, or we're not endorsing any organization, but we just share the resource. When it comes to help us help our colleague, that is all information is a good information. So it's good to have that information in the back of our mind and share among ourselves.
Sure. And State Farm also offers that type of product as well. So if you have insurance through State Farm, definitely reach out to your State Farm agent about a small business type of policy. It's called a BOP, business owner policy. And that policy is very, very affordable. Although also too, Ann mentioned professional liability insurance, errors and omissions. That's really needed. If you're out there as a consultant, you really should consider that. That policy isn't cheap. It's like, I'd ask my insurance agent to quote it. It was like $1,900 a year for $1 million, but it is needed, because like Ann mentioned, if you're out there, you make an error, you cause somebody to lose money financially, and they come after you, this policy is going to respond on your behalf. If you miss your omission, you misstated something, or you forgot to say something to whoever you're giving advice to or interpreting, that also, you could also be held liable for that. So it's an important coverage. It's not cheap. It's about $2,000, but definitely ask your insurance agent to quote it for you. And then for auto insurance, so these are three basic, very much needed if you're an independent contractor, because a lot of times if you're going to go to the court and you get a contract from the state, they're going to go, well, we want you to have $1 million of auto insurance. You can't come onto our property without that. So, you might want to convert your personal auto policy to a commercial auto policy. You don't have to change the registration, but you can ask your insurance agent, just give me a side-by-side comparison of a personal policy versus a commercial policy. So the difference between the personal auto policy is the maximum limit you can get is 600,000. Some companies, their max is 500,000. But under the commercial policy, you can get $1 million, which satisfies anybody that, hires you, right? If there's a contract and it's a requirement, it's going to satisfy. You might pay a couple of $100 more, but you have larger limits that, that would sit. It really is to protect you when you're out on the road.
Yeah, like
right?
Adela
And
say, yeah, when it's required by your contractor or the one who enter into the contract, because everyone have different requirements, state might have different requirement. So the issue of insurance, so go back to the question from Della and Jordan. So it depends on who you are working with, what you are contracting with. So make sure you understand, you get yourself into and get requirement insurance as required at minimum requirement by that contractor. So yeah, it's a big issue that we have to look into it, and it too many level. Like I said, looking for $1 million E&O, earn and omission, or we're looking for what they call umbrella insurance to cover everything. So it's really in detail, and I think we might have to consider have some session talking about insurance, which it might be different topic for the future. But for today, I don't want to overwhelm people with with too much information now, and we are to that mark at almost 10:30 at our scheduled time. So it have been gone by pretty fast. So, but appreciate your information that you're sharing with us, Della. And like I say, for me as a lawyer, even for me, I still confused with what type of insurance we have. So, but it's a required. So the most advice that we can tell everyone that working as an independent, looking in your contractual obligation, looking at the requirement, who are you working with, and looking into detail what level of insurance or what level of requirement they have, and would help you meet the requirement as well as be able to continue your business. Okay. Any question? We are 10:30 mark. Any last question for Ann or for Luke?
Yeah, can I ask another one?
Sure, Victor, go ahead.
Yeah, we've been talking about the rising cost of doing business and also the economic disruption. Is there any chance of our pay rate being subjected to review at this point in time?
Okay, Ola is not the one who set up the rate.
No, I
so,
understand, but PGC, I mean.
I would defer that to for the side conversation, because this is a public forum and it will be also recording.
Okay.
So any business perspective, I would defer you to discuss in private between you
Okay,
and your.
all right,
Yeah.
I understand. Sorry about that.
Okay, and the last before we left, I put in the chat, but I will also email to everyone. It's another opportunity to work for the state judiciary. This coming, I believe, starting this July, they will have basic orientation for people who want to become a court interpreter. So they're gonna resume after the COVID that they have not been done for the last 2 years. I will send out the information, because one thing that related to our today, that when you're working for the court, they require you to be an independent contractor, that require GE Tech, require become to have your own business. So it's kind of relating, and it's also helping us here who want to participating and use your linguist skill working to serve a community. So I will send out the information about the upcoming what they call BAO basic orientation workshop for the court interpreter. Is going to resume for all county this coming, should start coming this July. Okay, so I know it's 10:30. Before we go, I will have Barb. Any last word for the group who has our co-sponsor today?
Yeah. I want to thank everybody for attending today's session and for registering. I'm hoping that this can be on Ola's website, you know, for others that may have been interested and really need this information. The other thing is we are always open to ideas on what the interpreters would like to learn from these sessions. So if you have any ideas that, you know, we can bring to the training sessions, please send them to Ola, AP, and we can discuss it for the next session that we'll be having in the next 3 months, right?
Yes, we're gonna do it on a quarterly basis.
Yeah. So thank you, everyone, and we will keep you informed of any, there's a language access law that's, you know, we've been advocating for. We also are advocating, you know, not only at the legislative level, but also at the community college level to bring about the interpreter training sessions for the community. So everyone that's been hooked up, I'm hoping that once that gets going, you'll be able to access that information as well. And Della, your Maui is working on an interpreter training session as well. Yeah. So.
Okay, and last one, our big sponsor, not big sponsor, our co-sponsor, Pacific Gateway. Tarina, any last word for the group today? You're on mute.
I echo all of Barb's sentiments. Thank you so much for participating. And I want to particularly thank my colleagues Ann Young and Lucas McKinnon for providing such an excellent and informative session that I think was beneficial for everyone. So thank you very much. And AP, thank you so much for organizing these quarterly workshops. They are so helpful to people who really wish to have more information on becoming an interpreter and translator. And so I think that you've been instrumental in providing the critical information they need. So thank you so much. And we're happy to partner in this endeavor. So thank you.
Okay, thank you, you all. If not, I'll see you in the 3 months next quarter, and enjoy your weekend. Bye now.
Bye.
Thank you.
Aloha.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Aloha.
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 Thank you.